this evening. And of course, we'd like to hear where you are in your journey moving to Portugal. So anything to celebrate or any troubleshooting that we need to do with you tonight, pop those questions into the chat. And I just need to make sure that we are going live on YouTube, which I believe we are. Okay. And then we have a new little promotional jingle to play as well. Thank you, Astrid, for this. So let me just come back to sharing my screen over here and playing a video for you that we have. Let me just, I hope you can see this. Yeah, I think you can. How about that? A nice rousing start to the evening. This is the Expats Portugal webinar for today, the 6th of June, 2024, all about Lisbon, investing, working and living in Lisbon. And we have two great people to talk to about that. And as I said before, I think we will drift geographically. Chitra Stern, of course, knows a lot about Portugal in general, as well as making quite a stir specifically in Lisbon as well. So good evening to you, Chitra. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Great. Thank you. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm looking forward to talking to you. Investing, working, and living in Lisbon and in Portugal. You've done all three of those, and you help others to do the same. So, for the time being, stay where you are. It's going to be interesting to find out more about that building behind you, just to the left
Yeah.
of on the screen there. We'll find out about that this evening. And Martin Harris, the executive director of the United Lisbon School. How are you, Martin?
Good evening, Carl. Really well, thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me to join Expats Portugal. Great jingle, by the way.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Oh, that was the debut tonight. I like that a lot. Thank you, Astrid, for putting that together. So let's get started then. Investing, working, and living in Lisbon, and we'll stretch that, of course, to Portugal. And welcome any questions about that. Martin, fairly new to the scene. Let's start with Chitra in that case. And this will be a recurring theme tonight. You have I think a 20 plus a year history here in Portugal, Chitra. We are
Yes.
very interesting times here in Portugal at the moment. We've just clocked over 1 million foreigners here in the population here in Portugal. And I would love to stare into the future with you and with Martin. Martin, especially as well, because he is the executive director and is leading the school. And what sort of future we're hoping for the young people of that school. So we'll come back to you, Martin, for that. Chitra, if we could start with you. 20 years ago, you came to Portugal. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it was 23 years ago, to be exact, back in 2001. And we came from London. So my husband and I had met in London. I'm originally Singaporean of Indian origin, but I'd been living in London for several years. I met my Swiss husband from Zurich, and we moved to Portugal for business opportunity. You know, we saw some great basics. In the economy in Portugal. It had been part of the European Union for several years, by this point, 15 years to be exact. Um, Infrastructure, uh, all the EU infrastructure funds were kicking in, highways were being built from the north to the south, east to the west. Connectivity was improving, and airports were doubling in capacity. EasyJet and low-cost airlines such as EasyJet were just taking off, pardon the pun.
Very good.
And connectivity was just increasing. And I had not been to Portugal prior to March of 2001, and it was incredible. It was the most undiscovered country in Western Europe at the time. And we found a fantastic destination, tourism destination in the Algarve in the south of Portugal at the time, which is where we first moved.
Mhm.
And in comparison to the south of Spain and south of France, south of Italy, it was just far less known. But we found it to be so beautiful. Kilometers of white sandy beaches, great food, great local culture. People were ever so welcoming, and English was already widely spoken at the time. Which is a very important thing for tourism. Um, I mean, weather, I haven't mentioned the weather so far. It's obviously great weather, um, throughout the year. And so, we saw some interesting opportunities in the area of real estate at the time in 2001. And we moved. Actually, we bought a house in Lagos, and we started our business in the garage, assessing various projects. So that's how it started 23 years ago. And there was a huge excitement in Portugal because, the World Expo had just taken place
Yes.
in Lisbon in 1998, and that whole huge regeneration project was such a huge success. There was a can-do spirit amongst the Portuguese. It was just about to take off, let's
Yes.
say, about to flourish. So that's the start of our journey in Portugal 23 years ago. We originally said we'll try it out for 5 years, and here we are, 23 years, and 4
Excellent.
children later, and different business having gotten into different businesses as well. So
I'm guessing you must like it.
we love it.
The 5-year trial was successful, 4 children, and a number of sites now that you've developed. The first of which it was the original Martinhão in Sagres. Is that correct?
That's right. So
Yeah.
the original was in Sagres. Then, of course, something happened back in 2008. Lehman Brothers collapsed, and that sort of, set off the global financial crisis. But, we were one of the handful of developers who survived that. And once we grew our hotel business in the corner of the country in Algarve, we were able to then discuss interesting projects with the banks. And that's, we made acquisitions, and we grew the Martinhão brand and did more real estate projects. And in fact, the most recent wonderful project that we've done is United Lisbon International School,
Where
which
Martin
opened
is the exec director. Yeah.
Martin is the executive director, and it opened in 2020. And since then, we've brought in the Duke's Education Group as a partner, equity partner with us, and we're very proud of that.
I'm sure.
So Lisbon, we moved to the Lisbon area in 2016, and we opened that hotel right behind me called Martinhão Lisbon Orient just last year. In fact, we just had our first anniversary on the 2nd of June.
Congratulations on that.
Thank
What an
you.
incredible achievement. And you're very modest because you could have also mentioned Cascais and Chiado as well, where you have other Martinhão residents.
We do. Yes, Cascais. In fact, we sold that early last year. We were. It was a business offer that couldn't be refused, but we're very proud, actually, that many of the staff members actually chose to stay with us, and they joined us in the Martinhão Lisbon Orient project.
Oh,
it's a branded residences project. So you're living, in a building with hotel services, great hotel services, and a restaurant, and various other features, like a wonderful gym and a kids club and co-working space, meeting rooms. So we're quite proud of what we've achieved, and it's already in the top 10 lists in various travel magazines as well.
Really?
So quite proud of that.
In your just over your first year, and we have a very happy customer, I think. Coincidentally, somebody who's staying there at the moment. And I would love to come back to you and find out more about Orient, Martinhão Orient as well, and more about your story, and your love of Portugal, your obvious love of Portugal, and your hopes for the future of Portugal. Well, let's have a quick chat with Martin as well. Before we go to you, Martin, we've got Tom Smith in Ohio. Diana B liked the video. Thank you. Thea from San Diego tonight. The questions are coming in. Please put those into the chat there about Lisbon, about Portugal, anything you want to ask Chitra or Martin here this evening. Yep, Tom Smith, who's considering Almada. We'll come back to that question. Ivan on the NHR and the withdrawal thereof. It will be interesting to talk about that as well. And Sarah, thank you very much for your help behind the scenes as well. So Martin, exec director at the United Lisbon School, new in the role. What an exciting position to be in.
It's a very exciting position, Carl. It's a great time. I feel actually sort of rather blessed to have come across this project. The background, very quick background, is that Chitra and her husband Roman had this vision, having developed offices and fantastic high quality hotels. They wanted to develop an education hub. and saw a piece of land about a mile away from Chitra's background, up the road, and have set up this wonderful opportunity. And I've sort of swanned in 4 years after everyone's done all the hard work to get it going, and have this wonderful title of executive director, basically the sort of principal, the headmaster, but a glorious title instead. And here I am to take it on to the next stage. So the campus was opened 4 years ago, as Chitra said. We've got 620 children now, 55 different nationalities. So we truly can claim to be an international school. The children are aged from 3 to 18. And the campus is growing. So I'll come back to the people, which is the most important part of any school. But Chitra and Roman designed the campus so that future development would not impinge on the operations. So we're opening another 24 classrooms in September, and then a theatre, a sports hall, another outdoor space. And I have to say, I think probably Chitra and Roman forget, because they've been involved in the project for so long, just how it's like gold dust having outdoor space in any city around the world, but particularly in a southern European city where you have the sort of tight, narrow streets and buildings close together. So to have 3 football pitches outside is just amazing, and to see the children of all ages being able to run around, kick a ball, chase each other, be happy at playtime is fantastic. So I feel, as I say, very lucky to join the school, and my sort of remit is to take the school on to the next level, having got it started. So it's sort of gone through its settler period, the pioneer period, if you like, and now I'm sort of the leader of the settlers, if that makes sense.
It does. Educating children for tomorrow's world. I'd love to hear your take on that, and exactly, because these are uncertain times, aren't they? And fascinating times, however one might interpret that. And it would be good to hear your view, your particular take on that, and how you wish to lead the school. But did you say 24 new classrooms?
24 new classrooms are opening in September. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, most schools open up a couple of extra classrooms, maybe, don't they? I remember when I was at school, yes, we're going to open up maybe a couple of extra ones by the time you come back next year. We're expanding a little bit. 24. The scope then must have you must have some very big plans. What is going to be taking place on this site that warrants 24 classrooms?
Well, I think one of the first assumptions from everybody is that you're going to get sort of an extra 200, 300 children are just suddenly going to turn up. And of course, ultimately, long term, our plan is to expand. But I think any community needs to grow in a measured way. And so actually, we're not growing hugely in September. We're just on a steady path at the moment. But actually, what 24 classrooms allows us to do is to offer the children of tomorrow, children of today, the sort of parents of tomorrow, even greater skills. And one of the things, Carl, that I think I would say to anybody is that Lisbon is a very, very entrepreneurial city, and it encourages forward looking. And so to be in charge or running an international school in this city that looks forward very readily is fantastic. So what do the 24 classrooms allow us to do? It allows us to offer even more, a greater variety of subjects, and so you have the subjects you'd expect on any school menu, but actually to throw, if I throw a few, like entrepreneurial skills, philosophy, lateral thinking. But I'm also a big advocate of children and staff following their skills and their loves. So I've got one particular staff member who is a science teacher, but he loves with a passion marine biology. And we're right next to one of the most fantastic rivers in the world. We are a mile from, I think, Chitra will correct me if I'm wrong, but it recognizes one of the best oceanariums in the world.
Yes.
And the people who run that are fabulous and just open to collaboration with schools. So, glass bottom boats, taking a whole load of 15 and 16 year olds out into the river regularly. And we're going to get involved in some of the sustainability projects that the Oceanarium are leading. So that's a very, very small example of how we're going to use those.
It's a profound one, though. And I think a lot of people here watching tonight are wishing they were 15 or 16 again, and able to choose that as an option. That's fantastic, Chitra. And I'm guessing that's part of how you wish to be part of what Martin referred to there as the entrepreneurial, the buzz of Lisbon,
Yeah,
that's woven into the school's curriculum and mindset, is it?
it is. I mean, the vision was to create a school for, um, education 4.0, as they were calling it at one point, education for tomorrow's world. And, uh, we wanted to have a school with 5 pillars: technology, which is technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all this is really important for the next decades. Entrepreneurism, global citizenship, the arts and sports, and you know uh, to respond to the point about technology and trying to weave that into um, the younger years as well. I mean, we made a fantastic makerspace, which we benchmarked against, the best makerspaces in the world. We have, made connections, but we also have friends in Singapore at, schools. And so we learned a lot about making, good spaces, good science laboratories, good makerspaces. But global citizenship, I'd just like to touch upon that. The reason we named our school United Lisbon is we strongly believe that the only way to solve the world's problems is by being united. Um, you know, um, we can see in the last few years what has been happening in the world, and wars have started up, and it's an ongoing thing. I mean, there are wars in every part of the world, but in Europe, little did we think that we would face such a situation, and that it is. We live in interesting times, as they say. But this point about global citizenship is really about exposing the children to things like the Model UN, understanding what the Sustainable Development Goals are, from the United Nations, being responsible citizens, and yeah, this is one of our pillars. Martin mentioned sports. I mean, we focused a lot on that to sort of create the sports fields, and we're building new ones, an huge indoor gym, and with a more outdoor spaces. But it's also connecting to what's around us, and we're working together with a sports academy, to deliver football lessons for our children, and
that would be Sporting Lisbon, the champion.
Sorry?
You chose well. So you're working with Sporting Lisbon, the champions currently,
Yeah.
as a collaborator.
When we chose them, I mean, I know, in Portugal, you've got
yes,
this big top. It's very dangerous to choose one football club, but I always say, it is the closest one, and it technically is. So I know Benfica is a little bit further, but so you've got to be very careful in Portugal. It's bigger than religion. So
true. Well, if not equal, right? Football, Fatima, and Fado.
Family comes first. Family.
Oh, four Fs.
Yeah. I think there were 5 at one point. Don't ask me to quote it. It was a long time ago.
They're the pillars of Portuguese.
Food can be
food, of course, as well. That's really good to know about. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so clearly, a school not in its own little world, but firmly connected to the city, to the real world, and to the future.
And we are in the technology district of Lisbon. Carl, the headquarters of Microsoft is down the road, Vodafone, and the new sort of unicorns of Portugal are also very close. You've got Feedzai down the road, and the creative hub of Beato is also very close by. This is where the mayor of Lisbon has decided to start this sort of, project called the Unicorn Factory, which really encourages entrepreneurism and encourages startups to become unicorns. So there's incubators. There's a lot happening in Lisbon, and we are the technology district, and we really want to reach out to the companies around us to organize internships for the children as well. And these things take time. I mean, these are all points in our vision, and slowly over time, over the next 5 years, under Martin's great leadership and the connections we will make, we are not just growing as a school, but we'll be growing in our collaborations all around us.
Well, let me ask you about that. Growing with the city, by the sound of it, and Lisbon has been. It happens, doesn't it, that there are fashions in the great cities to go to, either on holiday or to move to, and Lisbon has been featured quite heavily and quite a good profile for I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, maybe 5 years, maybe even longer. The big startup scene. I can't think of anyone better to ask who's got their finger on the business pulse. And what we're talking about tonight, investing, working and living in Lisbon and in Portugal. Is it still as good as people have been saying? It sounds like it's getting even better from what
listen, I'm as an entrepreneur, I am an optimist. I mean, if you're not an optimist, you just wouldn't do any business, because you can either see something that's full of risk or something that's not full of opportunity, right?
Yes.
And I think the very nature of us entrepreneurs is we spot the opportunities and we're optimistic, and we just get on. You got to have resilience and grit, and keep looking into the future. Through good times and bad times. I mean, Roman and I've seen the global financial crisis and COVID in more recent years, and we've seen our businesses through them, and I think Portugal is full of opportunities still, Carl. I mean, we're still intend to grow our businesses. Here in Portugal, we're looking for opportunities in other parts of Portugal to grow our Martinel brand. And in technology, I mean, I know lots of people have moved their sort of centers of operation here in the north, especially because a lot of universities. There's more universities in the north, but also Lisbon, right? I mean, the creative hub of Beato,
yes.
LARX, the Web Summit. The annual Web Summit has been happening. Actually, that's in my background.
In your neighborhood there, isn't it?
Yes, it is right here.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention that about the technology district, but Web Summit has been taking place here since 2016, and that has had a huge impact on the startup scene here and the technology scene here. So listen, and I know it took the Portuguese government quite a long time to decide, to sort of or they've been talking about for a long time, the new Lisbon airport, but that's coming up. The government has now finalized the location, and it's going to be built in the next 5 to 10 years. It'll be ready, and that's going to have a huge positive impact. And honestly, people are discovering Portugal. It's like different little waves, of discovery, but that's Portugal,
Yes, I was going to say there is a modesty about the country, isn't there, that doesn't have the leadership screaming from the rooftops how amazing it is. You kind of have to come here and find that out for yourself, don't you? And it just kind of slowly, osmotically affects people rather than being the subject of a massive global marketing exercise. Yeah, and so safe to say then that's continuing to happen. We're going from strength to strength in this city and in the country. I'd love to hear your predictions for the future, given that you have this perspective of being here for 23 years. Before we do, I'll bring us into the here and now with some of the questions that have come in. Sorry, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, just to say, I mean, the trends can be spotted. Our school, for example, has, is 20% Portuguese, I just want to say, and 80%, 50 plus different nationalities.
Amazing.
And the restaurant scene as well is so cosmopolitan. Lisbon has become so cosmopolitan in the last few years, and and those trends then roll on for some time. So just wanted to add that that things have really changed in the last 2 decades.
Yes, and in this week alone, we've had the government respond to, I mean, let's be honest, the somewhat awkward situation that you could argue is a result of Portugal's popularity. And it has got a little bit clogged up and difficult, but the government has responded to that this week. The president has passed the legislation to have 41 pointers to make immigration and to give people, I think the word they used was dignity in moving to Portugal and to make the process easier. So that's happening. That's being taken care of. I think, Martin, you wanted to add something there.
Well, Carl, I just wanted to add to what Chitra said, and for your viewers who are with families, it is an unbelievably safe place. Of course, there are certain places you wouldn't go, but it's actually a very, very safe city, and it's a wonderful place to learn. So if you're looking for a school where the children just sit and pass exams, there are thousands of places around the world. But if you want to come to Lisbon and be immersed in the culture of the city and the art, the music, the sports scene we've already touched upon, but there are 101 things you can do outside school that just make it such a vibrant place. And I think that is a priceless education, to be able to come. Chitra's already mentioned the different nationalities we've got, and exposing them. And just for me as an educationist, to stand in the playground and see them all getting on with each other, not worried about what country they come from or language is their home language. It's just amazing. And so I just wanted to add that it is a real melting pot, and a lovely place for it.
Thank you for doing that. And teenagers will thank you for that as well, won't they? If they find themselves growing up in Lisbon. What an exciting city to be a teenager in.
I've got 2 teenage boys, so yeah, absolutely.
Perfect timing. Okay, let's go to some questions and comments then. Thank you very much for these. Tom Smith in Ohio. Just now settling in that I could be doing this in less than 5 years, but 10 to 15 is more likely. I'm thinking probably, Tom, that the advice from our panelists, if you like, here would be to do it sooner rather than... Well, it is certainly my suggestion to you would be to do it sooner rather than later. So let us know how we can help you with that process there. Yours is more a question, I think, with the admin processes and banks and life insurance. That's probably a dream team question, and we've got the Dream Team session at 9 o'clock this evening, so do please rejoin us for that, and we'll get to the bottom of those particular admin specifics. This is a good one from Tom. I'm considering renting in Almada. This is south of the river, Chitra. The cost of living is less than the city of Lisbon, but you still get a lot of the benefits. That's a trend as well, though, isn't it? People discovering the south of the river. That's changed since you've been here, I'm sure.
100%, and actually all over Portugal. And Portugal's a small country, I'm sure you'll agree. It's very well connected with the highways, and it's for the Americans, when I tell them it's a quarter of the size of California, they're so surprised. And you can really, drive quickly from Lisbon to Porto or even down to the Algarve. So south of the river in Almada is definitely the case, and there's other places like Alcochete, that's becoming popular, and even further south. I mean, you can in a larger city, driving, commuting 1 hour, every now and again, especially now with hybrid working and so on. But 1 hour commute is normal, and there's so many areas sort of within a 1 hour drive, or a half an hour train ride. Let's say Vilafranca de Xira. Many areas. There are many areas that were off the radar before, and Lisbonites have this a very small city. I call this it fits the Goldilocks principle. For those of you who know the story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's a European city, modern European capital, but it's not too small, and neither is it too big. It's just the right size. Getting from one end to the other is easy, and north and south. So I think this is definitely a trend. Almada is just one of the places you can look at.
Brilliant. Southern Europe's Goldilocks capital. Martin, do you want to add to that?
Well, Carl, I was just going to mention that a couple of new families in particular, and a few of my staff live over the other bridge. Almada's dependent on the April the 26th bridge, which it can be sometimes quite
25th,
busy.
Yeah.
25th, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm always a day ahead,
You've given us another national holiday. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Too, but the Vasco da Gama Bridge, which is the one that's behind Chitra in her picture, at the other side there's a
Alcochete and Montijo.
Montijo, and quite a few people live there. It's it is cheaper than living in the city, but you're 15 minutes, 20 minutes from where Chitra and I are speaking to you from.
It's amazing.
And that's Alcochete, and if you go north, as in continue in this direction. Sorry, I don't know which way I'm pointing. This direction. That's where Vilafranca de Xira is, and there's a lot of options.
There are, and they are incredible commutes as well. To come across the April 25th bridge in the morning is beautiful. I've done that. It's fantastic. The Vasco da Gama bridge there, that's a marvel of engineering. That would be a beautiful drive to work as well, as it would going up and down the coast.
And I just want to say, Parc des Nações is a transport hub with great bus connections, underground connections, and train connections. So when they did this whole project, it was a huge urban regeneration project. And I've been lucky enough to listen to the architect Manuel Salgado, who was one of the chief, architects on this project, of this huge urban regeneration project. And they planned it so well with good transportation links, and highway connections to everywhere. So,
it's great.
Several options.
Let's talk more about Orient then, whilst we're there. And we have it behind you. We'll come back to your NHR question in just a moment, Ivan, and we'll get some predictions for the future as well from Chitra and from Martin this evening. But we see Orient, or Martigny Orient, just to the left of you in the picture there, the Vasco da Gama Bridge. You've got the Altis Arena. This is a remarkable area in Lisbon, isn't it? And people can live there with you effectively in this place. So tell us more about that opportunity.
Yes. So what we developed here, it's a very modern branded residences project, and it has on the lower floors the hotel floors, and on the upper floors the residential floors, and it really is suited for people who want to buy or rent, to live in the building, who really want this sort of hassle-free investment or hassle-free living. It's a new trend, in big cities like Miami or Singapore, Dubai. You've got these branded residences and apartments with, services, hotel services. So it can be as simple as, housekeeping services. But I always quote the Wi-Fi example. When your Wi-Fi router goes down, or your dishwasher stops working, normally, you have to organize someone to come and sort it out for you, and that might take you some days if you're lucky, rather than weeks. But we've got people on site to fix these sort of things. We've got fantastic Wi-Fi to enable people to work from anywhere, do their work, etc. But heated pools, a great restaurant, all-day dining restaurant, so people can have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, have room service. Very well kitted out gym by Techno Gym, and a kids club, which really helps families, young families. The idea is that when a family lands in Lisbon, they really have a good landing.
Yes.
Usually in your hometown, you've got your family to help you with things, or you might have help. Here you've got sort of ready-made help until you sort yourself out.
Well, that was the word that came to mind. So it's a ready-made existence. As soon as you could fly into Lisbon Airport and be in Martinhal within 10 or 15 minutes.
Yes,
I believe, and on the metro, which Tom said he noticed was how clean the metro was here in Portugal. No nasty smells or graffiti. So he was very pleased with the public transport there. But you could land here, move into Orient, Martigny Orient, and live and just be able to give the focus of your attention into settling in and not have to worry about any of those.
And the school is literally 10 minutes away. So this is what
a turnkey life right there. That's amazing. And you can find out more at martignolresidences.com. Thank you, Sarah, behind the scenes here, and Rosa as well, with those links. So thank you very much indeed for those. A quick business question then before we conclude and look forward to the future, with you having looked at the present and the past, of course, and your amazing life story here, you and Roman. The withdrawal of the NHR, and the political unrest, if you like, in the last 12 months. How has that affected things, Chitra?
I wouldn't call it political unrest. I mean, we still have democratic elections, and
all relative, isn't it?
It's all relative. Actually, I'm just in London at the moment. I confess, missing the heat terribly in Portugal. They've just announced elections here. And, the thing is, yes, the NHR was ended. That is correct. And I don't necessarily agree with that decision that the government took at the time. Equally, you know, we had elections recently, and you know there was a change in government. So you know, it's a democracy. There will be other you know expressions of opinion, and I would say that they have come back with, or there is another alternative tax scheme. I mean, we've done a webinar on this with Edge and Blevins Franks, and I've done a TEDx talk as well, why Portugal is trending. There's a lot of relevant information on these on YouTube. But the thing with the taxes is they've got another alternative scheme called the ITS, incentivized tax status.
Okay.
So you can look at that. And what Portugal is really, I mean, I think still good in Portugal is that there's no wealth tax or no inheritance tax. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people who own businesses and, you know, you do need to get tax advice. I mean, I'm not a tax advisor, but you know, you can arrange yourself to pay Portuguese taxes on certain income, but there's no inheritance tax for when you pass on your you know real estate here to your children, or you know if you've started a business and so on. So there are still some advantages, and even the golden visa. Yes, they have ended the real estate investment of it, aspect of it, but you can still invest. There is still the fund option, investing in a fund that is not a real estate fund. So you know, if the business is agriculture or anything else really, and there's a digital nomad visa, and there's the D7. So and charitable donation golden visa, where you donate 250,000 euros to an approved foundation, the Sir Aldrich Foundation, for example, and you can actually arrange a golden visa for you, your spouse, and two dependent children. So there are still alternatives. I mean, you know, as usual, people tend to focus on the negative news, but there are other options still, which I think is good. And you know, you don't know what the future holds. We have a declining aging population, and I know you're going to cover this, you know, sort of the future forecast. So you know, Europe does need immigration, you know, yes, for our economies to grow. Yep. It's just you know, the stance is quite interesting. That I think we do need to, of course, have good immigration policies, but you know, we can't just stop immigration.
No, and it's
or indirect investment for that matter.
Sure, it's work in progress, and it is being addressed actively, as we've discovered this week here in Portugal. So thank you for addressing that, the golden visa and the NHR, and how that's impacted the future here. Thank you for that question, Ivan, as well. So yes, looking forward to the future then. We'll start with you, Martin, if we may, because yes, as executive director, as leader of the school, you'll have a special interest in this, in guiding the young people there. We heard Chitra has been here for 23 years, looking 20 to 25 years into the future, which is presumably how you would be thinking with those young minds as your responsibility. What's your view for that time span looking ahead?
I think, yeah, education tends to work in sort of cycles, Carl, and my immediate task is to put the next 5 years cycle in. But I think we will look back in the 2040s, we'll look back at the 2020s as a time when education around the world changed, and about time as well. I'm sorry, education, I don't sound like a revolutionary, but it does tend to be quite a slow changes. So instead of measuring children, for example, by the number of exams they get or the grades they get, we'll probably still be doing that, but we'll also be looking at the skills that they have developed through their education that will take them out into the workplace and into the wide world. And it won't simply be just a number of certificates that you've accumulated during your 15 years or whatever it is at school. So I think this is the 2020s are the time where it's really exciting, which I hope I sort of have passed on that excitement, not just to be at United Lisbon, but to be in education at this time, and adapting for that.
If I didn't already live here, I'd want to move to Portugal again, having heard both of you speak tonight. Can't do that though. So thank you very much for that vision of the future. And that is exciting to think that this might be the time when it gets reinvented and that you're part of that. And presumably with some of the expats in our community who think they're retired, they might, and obviously would have to go through some sort of process with you, but they might be useful mentors and collaborators, given their professional backgrounds and what they thought they'd put behind them in previous lives.
I would love that, Carl. Absolutely. We're just starting to engage with my parent community groups, for example, to talk to the sort of older children about possible careers, because actually the old-fashioned notion of going to university and then perhaps going into some safe professions is in Lisbon is just one option. There are so many doors that open here, and it's our job to make sure that the children are open-minded and prepared for anything. I think that's the greatest skill that we can give them all.
I wish you'd been my headmaster. Thank you, Martin. And we'll stick around, please, for more questions when we conclude the recording, which we'll do now with your final words, Tutor, if we may. The next 23 years, then, looking forward for Portugal and its future, and you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been here nearly a quarter of a century, and yes, looking forward to the next quarter of a century. I mean, as I expressed to you all before, I think there's still many opportunities in Portugal for foreign investors and foreigners wanting to start something interesting here. Portugal welcomes investment. I mean, ICEP, which is the trade and investment agency in Portugal, has a sort of plan. And there's many exciting things that don't make the newspapers. The Sines port, for example, is just, they've made some huge infrastructure improvements. The new airport will be built. And, when I look at the infrastructure improvements that sort of got rolled out with the EU infrastructure funds, when we arrived, the highways didn't exist. They were being built, but they didn't exist. And if you look at the change, sort of almost a paradigm shift, that causes, and just imagine what's going to happen next, with all that. So there will be a lot of economic growth. Portugal, continues to be a very welcoming society. I think this is one of the secrets of Portugal, and an attractive place to live. And I think I see Europe, coming together more in the next couple of decades. The European elections are around the corner. And I know, this isn't a democracy. In democracies, we see ups and downs, but I'm very optimistic about the future, for Portugal. Entrepreneurism is thriving, and we just celebrated the 50th year of, liberty,
yes.
the revolution, the Carnation Revolution. So, change, you have to think of where they've come from, in 1974. So I'm, things took some time to get rolling, and we're going to really see a huge increase, in development in a positive way, sustainable way in Portugal.
Wonderful. Well, if anyone can do it, you can. You took on the financial crisis and developed Martin Jan in Sagres, and then as you were developing your school, COVID came along. So I wish you all the best, and it's been lovely to talk to you tonight, and lovely to meet you and share you, Martin, in your new role at United Lisbon as well with our community. So thank you both for your forecast for the future there, and all the best to you both. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl. Thank you.